But yeah, his back was, man, it was outstanding. It was definitely his best pose out of all the poses he did. It was incredible.
I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. It's August 7th, 2023, and I'm joined today by not only the technician Chris Aceto, but by John Hansen to help us wrap up the Tampa Pro show since John was in the house, as always. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, Dave? What's up, Chris?
Hi, John.
So, John, I actually had an option either to go to Tampa Pro show on Friday and Saturday, or to go to Adventure Island, which is also in the Tampa area, and I opted for Adventure Island with the kids. So,
okay,
I got to go down some water slides.
Yeah, you probably had more fun than I did.
Now, if it was a Saturday, if I'd gone on Saturday, it might have been a harder decision because you guys had a great men's open show over there. Wow.
Yeah. Hunter Labrada looked amazing. I think that was his best look ever by far.
Yeah. Was that surprising to either one of you guys that Hunter brought such a great, I mean, really the Olympia last year was a disappointment. He placed out of the top 5. He was flat. He really wasn't, the Hunter that we had expected. And did you guys expect him to come back with a vengeance and look this good this year? We'll start with you, Chris.
Yeah, because, when you have a show where you technically bomb, it wasn't a bomb, but for him it was a bomb, I'm sure, in terms of what, where he wanted to place and who he wanted to be compared with. Sometimes you have to have bombs to get you to triple refocus on, whether it be the basics or what or just get you to focus with pinpoint accuracy on what you want to look like. So there was, really no surprise because he looked really good, at the Mannion guest pose, and that was way back. So, he was lean there, he was full there, and on target to look like this.
John, what was the response to the in the audience when he walked out?
People responded really positively to him. He looked amazing in shape, really wide, big, real hard. And I think, he got the most applause out of any of the competitors. So, yeah, he got great response.
When I was watching the live stream and I was like, holy mackerel. I was blown away. I thought he put a lot of size on, and he had the conditioning. He had both, something that he had never really nailed before.
Right. I agree.
We've seen him win Tampa before, like 2 years ago, right? And he didn't have this level of conditioning, and he's big. He's a lot bigger, he looks like. I don't know what he weighed here, but he definitely looks bigger than we'd seen him, I think.
Yeah, when they pulled him up next to De La Rosa, I was really surprised right away how wide he was and how big he was.
Chris, when you look at a Labrada like this, and, obviously he's not standing next to anyone else, like that's on the Olympia stage, do you see a potential top 3 guy?
That's such a hard question because who do you pick with who are the other 2? I guess you'd say last year's top 2, Hardy and
maybe,
and Derek. Hunter's a bigger guy than those guys. He's wider, and he's just he's bigger than people think. And that's why, like, he has not been in, I would say, Olympia level. He has not been in this level of conditioning at the previous 2 Olympias, and he still had, really good placings, which says a lot. You're looking at, which says that you're looking at a big guy, because I mean, if he wasn't that big and had the condition that he's had at the last couple Olympias, he wouldn't have placed nearly that high. So, in a way, you judge in shape and size, because the condition's been like pretty good, but it's not like this level of condition. And so, having said that, he could be, right there, and the mix. It's just hard to say until you see him side by side. I thought John De La Rosa looked great here, for example, but clearly he dominates John in terms of size. So you have to see him, I think, next to bigger guys to be able to get a little bit better perspective. Although you can see him right here next to John, and even by himself, and say, super impressive.
Well, I mean, how does John stack up next to like a Derek Lunsford? I mean, he might not have Derek's structure, but they're probably around the same height, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they're not the same bodybuilder, Dave.
Right. But I'm just saying, Hunter, what you said, his height definitely gives him an advantage, which is what Samson and Andrew Jack really have a lot of too, which I think gives them an advantage. That height.
Yeah, well, I mean, his height and his, he has width, which a lot of people don't have, and he has width with delts, which even adds to the width. And he's got also upper back thickness in spades, which a lot of people don't have. Derek has it. Heidi doesn't have it. Heidi doesn't have like super thick upper back. He has a great back lat spread, super wide, and he's got a good back, but he doesn't have like the on the back double. What I think what Hunter has, and or what Derek has. So I mean, here I am criticizing Mr. Olympia's back. Ideally, Mr. Olympia should have technically no weaknesses, no vulnerabilities, but there are some vulnerabilities in Hadi, and it's going to play out when we see it.
Do you think that John Hansen? Do you think that Hunter had this back last year? I don't think so.
No, I think he never had this back. In fact, I think his back was kind of his weak point. And I remember last year at the press conference at the Olympia, he said, "Wait till you see my back." And he was a disappointment last year, like Chris said. And he was even the year before when he got fourth. I think it was a disappointment because he was holding so much water at the prejudging. A lot of people thought he shouldn't have beat Nick that year. And but yeah, his back was, man, it was outstanding. It was definitely his best pose out of all the poses he did. It was incredible.
Now, that's not a full back double bicep because his hands are up in the air. But, I mean, you can see there's a lot of mass back there that he just didn't have before.
Yeah, he just had it all. He had the glutes, he had the hamstrings, but his thickness and his upper back, I've never seen that before. And the conditioning was spot on. So he was super hard. That was an outstanding pose.
Yeah. I was impressed, very impressed with him. The question is, can he duplicate this at the Olympia?
Yeah, and he's got Texas in 2 weeks, too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You think he'll still do Texas?
Yeah, he said on stage he's going to do it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move because now he's qualified. First of all, smart move to come and do Tampa first and not just throw all his chips into Texas. I think that we should have seen Carlos Thomas Jr. here too, to be honest with you.
It was only 8 guys in the whole show, Dave.
Yeah, I think that Carlos missed a good opportunity. I'm not saying he would have beat Hunter, but it would have given him another opportunity, to throw he's throwing all his chips in there. And then you got Andrew Jack who's going to be on that stage too. So
that's going to be
But this is good for Hunter because now he has no pressure on himself and he can go up against Andrew Jack and see how he stacks up. Because look, if he can't beat Andrew Jack, he's not going to win the Olympia, right? I mean, but if he beats Andrew Jack, that gives him a lot of momentum. Now, Chris obviously is going to have a few things to say about that because Chris is working with Andrew. How do you think Labrada will stack up against him?
I don't know, contrast, different physiques. I mean, I've sent you pictures of Andrew, which I shouldn't.
Yeah, it's wacky.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think there's poses. I mean, I think stand and relax front lat spread. The prejudging's just starting. Andrew's got the lead there. Right. Just two totally different physiques.
Sure.
It's not like if De La Rosa was a little wider and a little taller, you could compare, and a little bit bigger, you could compare him to Labrada. I was going to say Lee Labrada to Hunter. You know, so they're different body types. You know, vastly so.
It's funny, you know. I think Chris brought it up. I'll pull it up here just because I like, you know me. I like to pull up oddities. But
what do you think? What do you think? What do you think, John? I was going to say John Romano. How slow am I today?
John Hansen.
John Hansen.
Between Andrew and Hunter.
Yeah, contrast and physiques and blah.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Andrew's physique. I think he's incredible because he's got that width. He's got those deep abs. He's just got an amazing physique. I think he's a potential Mr. Olympia winner. So I can't wait to see this after all this improvement he's made, and him and against Hunter, who's really improved as well. This is going to be amazing. But I kind of like Andrew's physique a little better, you know, just because I like that width, and I like just the overall impact he has with his height, and just his overall physique is just amazing.
You know, talking about the Texas Pro, which is going to be like a huge show now, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but a good friend of ours, Chris, is going to be emceeing that show.
Who would that be?
He works for RX Muscle, and it's not me.
Sid.
Yes.
Sid? Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Networking. Yeah. Sid was been talking to the promoters, and they're bringing him out. And he's going to be, his booming voice is going to be announcing the winner between, you know, Carlos Thomas, Andrew Jack, Hunter Labrada, and whoever else shows up who's going to look great. So I think it's going to be a super exciting show. It might be one of the biggest shows of the year that we have, you know?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm glad Hunter's still doing it, because a lot of guys back out. You know, they get the qualification, they say, I'm shutting it down to the Olympia. But
yeah. That's
great. It's going to be a good thing. You know, I was looking at the scorecards after Chris kind of brought this up to me, and I noticed, and just for people who don't know how the scores work, judges will judge everyone. The lowest score is the best score. So if you get a 1, that's the first place vote. So you want to have the lowest score possible, and that makes you win. Now, if you look at Hunter Labrada, he got 5 points at prejudging, 5 points at finals. That means that all 5 of those judges gave him 1 point, and he won unanimously with 10 points total when you total of 2 rounds up. If you look at the guy who came in 3rd place, you'll see he got straight 15s.
He got 17 in the first round.
Oh yeah, Lewis Breed got 17. So if you look at he was actually not beating. Was he beating Joel Thomas? Yeah, he beat Joel Thomas by 1 point in the prejudging, but then he got straight 3rds. But if you look at John De La Rosa's score, he got straight 2nds in the prejudging. He got 10 points. But then he got 6 points in the finals, which is impossible mathematically, because that would imply that he got 1 second place vote and the rest were first place votes, which he couldn't, because Hunter got all the first place votes. So the score for some reason was not consistent. He should have had a 10 and a 10 there. And so if you're looking at the scorecards, it really wasn't that close, because Hunter had straight first places. So
John, the guy who ended up 3rd, he wasn't like in the running in the prejudging, right?
He was harder at night. He had the size. He was super thick, but I think he was a little harder at night.
He's a freak.
It's amazing. You know what? Well, what's amazing about it is they had what they called 4 in prejudging.
Yes.
And he wasn't part of it.
Yes, he was.
And he ends up in 3rd, which means they were judging. You know what I mean?
Wasn't he up there in the top 4? No?
Yeah. No, he was 3rd place. What's his name?
No, they had Joel Thomas up there. I thought they had him up there too. No.
Dave, what you're missing, Dave, while you're at the water park, was that the guy who got 3rd.
I was watching the show.
Okay, you were even watching it. So the guy who ended up 3rd was not part, right, John, of the big call out in prejudging, which was Joel Thomas.
I thought he was. I thought they called 5 guys.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
There was a 4-person call.
Hold on, you know what? I have it on my Instagram. Let me pull it up. I have the call outs. I was actually watching the prejudging live, Chris.
There was a 4-person call out, and then Yeah, at least in pictures, it was a 4-person call out.
Let's see. Chris might be right. Chris might be right. Let me pull it up. Yeah.
And then at the night show, the guy who was, you know, not part of that 4 call out, not only, you know, bypasses the 4th guy, but, you know, lands in 3rd.
Right. You are right, Chris. When you're right, you're right.
But the whole point is that's, you know, John just said
he wasn't in the top 4 call out. You're right. Here's the top 4 call out. I'm going to zoom this in. That was John De La Rosa, Joel Thomas, Hunter, and then who's that on the right there? That's not Lewis.
That's
Breed.
The King Keg.
He ended up like 6th, I think.
Yeah, so there's your top 4.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Was that yeah?
He dropped. Yeah, he was.
Was that Nate Spear? That was Nate Spear.
No,
right?
that wasn't Nate Spear.
No.
So it must have been Brady King.
Yeah.
No, Brady King was part of that top 4. He's on the right.
Yeah.
He looked very good.
That's the guy on the right, Brady King. Okay, so you're right. Lewis Breed, who wound up in 3rd place, was not in that call out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is, you know, just I mean, the whole point is that they, you know, physiques change and they judged all the way through to, you know, giving out the awards.
Right, but you know what's weird? Yeah, but you know what's weird? He was 3rd place in prejudging after prejudging. So
Brady was? Wow.
Lewis Breed was 3rd at the prejudging. He was a solid 3rd at finals, but he was 3rd just by a hair over Joel Thomas. So I don't know how he got into that top 4. You're right, Chris, with the original top, you know, call out. I guess he worked his way up through the other call outs.
Yeah, they must have done another call out at the end.
A lot of times people don't realize, you know, that, you know, and Steve Weinberger is notorious for doing this. If Steve thinks he made a mistake and maybe he called the wrong guys, that he'll let these other guys work their way up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Lewis Breed had a lot of muscle. And that's the point I was trying to make when I did my wrap up. He had so much muscle that you cannot ignore that at some point. He was conditioned. You know, he didn't have the structure of some of these other guys, but he had a lot of mass on his body.
He had a lot of muscle. That guy was huge.
Yeah. He trains out of the Dubai, right?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Would he come from the junior league pro show, pro division? Raphael's. Did he come from Raphael's pro league?
Oh, I don't know. Is that where he came?
I don't know.
Chris, you know all the gossip.
No, I don't know.
I never heard of him before. Yeah. I think he was
that's my point. That's my point. Maybe, you know, he came from the other pro division, the other whatever they have in Europe.
Oh, the elite pro. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I want to get him on the TV show because I thought he was a good story because he came, you know, out of nowhere and kind of placed 3rd at the show, which was a really good lineup. And he had a lot of muscle. So, you know me, I like anyone who's got a lot of mass on their body. So
a lot of muscle.
I'll get him on the TV show. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, he had a funny posing routine. He said it was something about Spider-Man in the beginning. And then he said, "You're not Spider-Man, you're the Hulk."
Take a page out of my playbook there.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, I thought it was I enjoyed watching, you know, very, very rarely do I enjoy these shows. A lot of times I'm like thinking, oh, this lineup is weak. And it's like, but I actually enjoyed watching the prejudging and the night show. So to me, if I enjoy a show, I know that there was some good quality competitors in it, you know. And so,
yeah, it was a good weekend. There was a lot of good quality competitors.
What'd you think of, John? How did, what was your evaluation of, De La Rosa?
I thought he looked really good. He looked, I thought, maybe a little flat.
Yeah.
Against Hunter, especially, you know.
Yeah, was he flat or was he just smaller than Hunter, so he looked flat?
Well, he's smaller too. Yeah, maybe that was it.
I think that
he had a good back and good legs, good arms, obviously, but yeah, just overall looked a little flat.
I thought he looked really good. I think Hunter just made him look bad.
That's why I asked. Yeah. I thought he looked really good too. I couldn't tell. You know, his midsection looked really good, and to be, you got to be super lean. You know, for that, like the side tricep, the ab shot was fantastic too.
Yeah.
You know, he's just tight.
Ab shot anymore. You know that, Chris.
What's that?
Most guys can't hit an ab shot anymore.
Well, a lot of people don't train abs.
You know what? You say that as a joke, but it's so true. And I've heard guys tell me, "Well, I heard you're not supposed to train abs." I'm like,
"Well, they're afraid abs section for thick or
abs and calves. They don't train anymore."
I said, "Why wouldn't you train? Why would you leave any body part out? You know,
right?
It doesn't make sense to me. I don't. it's like we live in a weird world.
That's the one thing I'll say about Hunter, though. He needs to improve his abs. They need to be a little sharper.
I agree.
As sharp as his back was, his abs need to be a little sharper.
And was that a conditioning issue, or was that something else?
It just didn't look like he had them, you know. Like, I don't know if it was the conditioning or just they just need to be sharper.
You know what it looked like to me, John, and you can tell me because you were there. It looked like they were in, but they, you know how he had that, like when you looked at the back double and his glutes, they had that like skin stretching, like look to them, where there was like not a little, you couldn't even pull a piece of skin off his glutes or his back. He didn't have that on his abs looked like they had skin there for some reason, and that wasn't hanging or anything, but it wasn't taut tight. And I think that's, you know, that could be just a water issue, you know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. He looked like he was aware of it too, because he didn't hold his ab shot that long.
Yeah. You know, a lot of times, and this is a topic that's, you know, that we should bring up, because one of the things that gave me a lot of stress when I competed was the fact that, especially for morning early prejudgings, that I wouldn't be able to go to the bathroom in the morning when I woke up. I wouldn't be able to poop, you know, and I wouldn't be able to, you know, empty my bowel. And I found when I did that, I felt like my abs were not quite as sharp, and I couldn't, you know, vacuum. I couldn't pull my stomach in. And it gave me a lot of stress for the first half of my career. And, you know, I used to try like those Ducalex little enemas you stick up like the little your butt and try to make you poop. And I think it just made it worse. And then I discovered
Fiberlize.
Well, then I discovered fiber. Someone turned me on to it. And then obviously I made my own product down the road. And it took the stress away, because I knew that when I took a fiber supplement that I was going to go to the bathroom no matter what. I knew the timing schedule on it, because if I took it at this time at night, in the morning, I would wake up and I would go to the bathroom. And I'm telling you, when you're stressed out and you're eating a lot of dry carbs and you're not drinking, you get constipated.
Yeah.
And what happens is after the show's over and you eat all the greasy, crazy stuff and drink, you poop your brains out. And it feels like sometimes it feels like you're pooping out bricks out of your butt because you've been so constipated.
Constipated.
I have a feeling that was, I think he wasn't, and I don't know. I don't talk to him, so I have no idea, you know, if it's true or not. It looked like he needed to, you know, poop. That's all.
Yeah. Well, you're right about his back. His back was so shredded. There wasn't
unbelievable.
There was no skin there at all. It was incredible. And it was from top to bottom, you know.
And usually people hold their fat in their back. Like I know guys that get glutes before they get, you know, middle back definition. I remember I was competing and Doug Wentz was helping me. And I'm like, I was posing for him in the posing room. He goes, "You're eating what are you eating?" I said, "Well, I'm having 6 meals, and then I have like a whey shake at night." He goes, "Why are you having the whey shake?" I said, "Well, you know, I don't want to lose muscle." He gave me the bob. "You're not going to lose muscle. You're eating too much food." And I said, "But I look at my glutes." He goes, "Yeah, but your back is not lean enough yet. Your middle back doesn't have the detail." And he was right. I cut that shake out, and in a week, I looked like a different competitor. And I only dropped like 2 pounds, but it made a big difference. And so usually, you know, you can get glutes before you get middle back. And I think a lot of guys stop once they see glutes. They're like, "Oh, I'm in shape," you know?
Yeah.
But you got to get that shrink wrap look. You know, you got to go a little, you got to suffer a little deeper. Oh, we lost Chris.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was expecting Hunter to look that good because he was putting some shots up from MI40 and stuff. So I knew what it looked like. But I think the crowd was really shocked.
Is Ben Pekulski still involved with that MI40, Jim?
I believe he sold it to his wife because they got divorced. So his wife.
Oh, really? Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
So she runs it?
Yeah.
I wonder what you would think in a divorce that he would want the that he would give the house up and keep the gym. You know?
Right.
Wow. But it's still in business?
Yeah, it's still in business. Derek Lunsford trains there, and a lot of the top guys will train there when they come.
Is that a big gym? I know it's a well-equipped gym.
No, it's small. It's pretty small.
Oh, it is small. Okay.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of people in there. Whenever I've been in there, it's pretty
right. Is it a private by member? Like, isn't it like a really expensive membership to go there?
Yeah, and I think that's what Ben created it for in the beginning. Was he wanted his own gym. And he wanted the equipment he wanted to have, and he wanted to do seminars and stuff. And then he opened it up to the public, and but it is pretty expensive, I believe.
Interesting. Now, what did they open that Metroflex here in Tampa yet?
Yeah, that's in Brandon, which is about almost an hour north of Tampa.
Yeah. Have you been there?
No, I haven't been there yet.
Oh, you gotta do a little a trip down there and check it out. I know the owner, but
oh, you do?
I didn't know what their. I was supposed to do an appearance there for the grand opening in April, and then I had my open heart surgery.
Oh yeah.
And I had to cancel on him. I felt terrible because I was supposed to be there and everything like that, and I just what am I gonna do?
I think Ronnie was there.
Yeah, no, Ronnie was there. Ronnie and Jay was Jay there too?
No, I think just Ronnie. I remember seeing
Ronnie. I was supposed to interview Ronnie on stage there as part of the whole grand opening.
Oh, okay.
And it just, the whole thing blew up in my face because I went to my cardiac surgery. He's like, yo, we got to do surgery now. I said, oh, great. All right. Well, I had to cancel.
Yeah.
But I heard it's a really nice gym. So we were just talking about gyms. Chris, what happened? What did you get? Did Trump call you?
I don't know. No, YouTube pulled my connection. I don't know what happened, Dave.
There was they gave out the Joe Weider, was it the Joe Weider or
Ben Weider
Lifetime Achievement Award, or was it Ben Weider? Ben Weider Lifetime Achievement Award, and to Samir Bannout, who was the 1983 Mr. Olympia, and John put together a really nice historical 3-minute perspective. I'm going to play it because for some reason they played it in Tampa, but they didn't play the audio part, which I felt was the best part of it. I guess they were running out of time or something like that. And let me pull this up here because John did a lot of work. How long did it take you to do this thing? It was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was going to take like an hour or two, and I was like till 3 a.m. I was doing it.
John, nothing takes when you're doing it video editing. Nothing takes that.
Yeah, especially when you do the video clips. It's like, oh man, I had to find the right pictures.
Yeah, let me run it. Here we go.
The Ben Weider Lifetime Achievement Award is presented this year to Samir Bannout. Samir was born in Lebanon on November 7th, 1955. At only 11 years old, Samir's life was changed forever when he saw a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger on the cover of Muscle Builder magazine. Inspired to begin building his body to look like his idols, Arnold and Frank Zane, Samir began training at a local weightlifting gym, learning the basics of weight training and physique development. Although naturally skinny, Samir's outstanding aesthetics for bodybuilding were evident even at an early age. His progress in the sport was so good that the Lebanese Bodybuilding Federation sent him over to compete in the 1974 IFBB Mr. Universe contest in Verona, Italy, when Samir was only 18 years old. The following year, Samir immigrated to the United States, initially moving to Detroit, Michigan, and training at the original Powerhouse Gym. After winning the Mr. Michigan title in 1978 and placing second at the Mr. International contest in Columbus, Ohio, Samir decided to move to Southern California and train in the Mecca of bodybuilding. It was here where he was able to train and hang out with all the bodybuilding superstars that he'd read about in the magazines, like Arnold, Frank Zane, and Robbie Robinson. In 1979, Samir won the IFBB Mr. Universe contest in Columbus, Ohio. Now a professional bodybuilder, Samir was able to make his living from the sport. He competed in the Mr. Olympia contest in 1980 and 1981 against his bodybuilding heroes, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Franco Palumbo. Samir dialed in his condition and competed in the Mr. Olympia that year, whipped to the bone. Although he only took 4th place, Samir proved that he had the symmetry and shape to go all the way. The following year, Samir Bannout made history by winning the 1983 Mr. Olympia contest in Munich, Germany, becoming only the 7th man in history to hold this coveted title.
In 2nd place, Mohammed Makawi, Egyptian. In 1. Platz, Mr. Olympia 1983, Samir Bannout.
It's a very stiff competition, and I knew always I had the potential to win the Olympia. And this time I came in the best shape of my life, and I really feel it's a fair decision. It was very close, but I know I deserve to win. I'm very happy that I won it, and I will be back again, even in better shape. And the higher you climb, the more you can see.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Ben Weider Lifetime Achievement Award winner for 2023, Samir Bannout.
Great job. Great job in that video.
Thank you.
I was trying to mute.
Dave, he made a
I was
mistake.
trying to mute the music because I knew they were going to get dinged by YouTube. So
Yeah. Did you hear the applause though when he hit that pose?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was amazing.
He said, "I will be back," and I told him I preferred "I'll be back," and he fought with me and he used "I will be back." You know what's so funny about that clip? Not funny, but people go like, "Oh, whoa, Middle East bodybuilders are making a mark now." If you look at that Olympia, it was a Lebanese guy versus an Egyptian guy.
Yeah, that's true.
It came down to two, and that was what, 83?
83, 40 years ago.
I think it was a huge crowd, but it looked like it was like a gymnasium, like from like a high school gymnasium. But you could hear the crowd. There had to be 1 million people there, right?
Where was it? In Munich?
Munich,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Olympia Hall. I think it was where they had the Olympics.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Albert Busak promoted it that year.
The backdrop was horrendous, but
Yeah.
that was the fun. They had LED screens, I guess.
Well, Dave, it's like looking back at like music videos from when they first came out, when they were, it's all relative.
Yeah.
People probably thought that backdrop was incredible.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Chris, were you at the 81 Olympia when Franco won?
No, where was it? Columbus?
Columbus, yeah.
No, I would have been like 14 then, I think.
Yeah.
My first big show was the Nationals when Haney won, but go ahead.
Okay.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was there. So Samir
wow.
comes out and he's doing this routine, and it's like really weird music. It's like birds are chirping, and then it just slowly builds and it builds, and then it has this like ding, ding, and he hits a pose with every ding, and then the part I showed you is like where he hits that 3/4 back, and I'm telling you, man, I thought the roof was going to come off. The crowd went insane. 4,000.
Because John, this is artistry. That's artistry. The music, they don't do that anymore.
That's true.
People actually cared back then. That's why, about the posing.
Amazing. One of the best routines I ever saw.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
John,
nowadays,
Samir may have the most photogenic memory outside of Jay Cutler. Let's just remove Jay, take him off the platform.
Yeah.
But besides you, John, in terms of he knows like every winner of every big show and their condition and when they were off, when they were on, how they looked at this show, that show. He's an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Well, because when you're immersed in that's what you're doing with your life. I mean, it was his job to make sure he knew what everyone looked like so that he can, potentially beat them, right? I have to know what their strengths and their weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. And he studied the sport. He was a student of the sport. You know what? Samir should have got into acting. He was a good-looking guy when he was younger, man.
He's really good-looking.
He would have probably cleaned up in Hollywood because he had a good mouthpiece too on him. I don't know if his accent would have hurt him, but he could have definitely played bad guys. You know what I mean? He would have been great.
Samir's problem was that they would have brought him on as like the not the star, but like, wow, you got a big role, and right, John, he'd want to take the like superstars role in the first movie.
Right.
And then he'd come to you, John, and me, and it'd say like, "Who's better for this role, me or so and so, Tom Cruise?" I say,
he'd walk off the set.
Yes, you could definitely see him like as the villain in like a Tom Selleck TV show or something like that, and it would have been great.
He'd be competing for best mustache.
Yeah, he definitely had a good mustache.
He looked like Omar Sharif a little bit.
Yes, but he looked totally different without, when you had the early footage in with the long hair.
Yeah.
He looked completely, I would never even know that was Samir.
Yeah.
In a million years, I wouldn't have guessed that was Samir.
I like that picture when he was in his bedroom and he had all the pictures on the wall. Did you see that?
Yeah.
All the bodybuilders. That was great.
Yeah, everyone had that same wall, at some point.
And that was the exact magazine cover that he saw that got him into it, because he told me, he goes, it was the one with Arnold and 2 girls on each side.
Oh my God, that's funny. So you did. I could tell that took a while. You pulled some good pictures there.
Yeah, it did take a while.
Don't happen overnight. But so when he gets the award, we all know Samir is, he can talk forever. You said he went up there and he was speechless, was he?
Yeah. He said he was kind of emotional, and he goes, I don't know what to say. And they're like behind him saying, like, tell a story. And he goes, what story? I don't know what to tell. The guy's full of stories,
Yeah,
that's why, because he was emotional. It touched his heart. It's always good to be validated by your peers as you get older, because at some point, you seem like you're not relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? To be acknowledged as someone who did something great, I think that touched him so much that it actually he was speechless, which Samir is never speechless,
Right. Yeah, you're right. He was caught up in the moment and he just didn't know what to say at the time.
You know what's so funny is I think we can all agree Sean Ray has like one of the better physiques of all time, just balance and stuff. And I think Sean in a Ironman magazine interview, it was when Sean was at his like absolute best.
Right.
They were asking him like, well, okay, like in your mind, who has the best back double bicep? And he said, well, the 83. He just went through all Samir's poses,
Yeah.
Best side tricep. Well, the 83 Olympia Samir, best back double. 83 Olympia Samir, best front lat spread. 83 Olympia Samir, best front double bicep. He went through every pose.
Yeah.
Side chest. That was like that 83 Olympia was like the equivalent to Wheeler's first Arnold win and Dorian's first Olympia win, where they just beyond put it together. You know what I mean? Everything was so etched.
Yeah, you're right, Chris, because even today, and this is 40 years ago, I mean, people still talk about those pictures like that was the best Mr. A lot of people say that was the best Mr. Olympia ever, was Samir's.
It was just smaller. It was just smaller. And I always
he was under 200 pounds.
Yeah. I always tell Samir all the time, you want to buy a mansion or you want to buy the perfect house that's 3,200 square feet,
Yeah.
He would say, well, Samir, he won't get, I'd have to see him first. And then I'd have to see one after the other. I'm trying just to make the point, Samir, that bigger is better, but not always.
Yeah.
It's funny because, I was obviously had a lot of mass on my body. I was one of the biggest guys, when I was competing. Didn't have the best structure, but I was one of the biggest guys. And I always say to myself, and I've said this before, if I had to pick a physique that I would have wanted, I never say like Ronnie or Dorian. I always say Tony Freeman, because I just think he's got like such an athletic look where when he walks through an airport, people look at him because he was impressive looking, and not just because he was a monster. He looked athletic, and he had great midsection. He had great symmetry, and I that was always like my favorite physique. And but at the end of the day, you got to work with what you've been given, and that's all you got.
It's all genetics,
we all have our strengths and we have our weaknesses, as bodybuilders, and there's nothing you can do about the weaknesses. You can try to make them a little better, but when you have structural flaws, you have structural flaws. Very few people are perfect. He had beautiful symmetry. I'm sure he wishes he could have been bigger, but he probably didn't need to be bigger. He might have made himself worse,
Yeah. Well, Dan made a speech, Dan Solomon, and he talked about how Samir went from like 15th at the 80 Olympia to winning it a couple of years later. But I think we all knew, all of us that followed bodybuilding back then, we all knew Samir could win. He just had to dial it in. I remember me and my friends looking at the magazines when we were younger, and we're like, man, this guy's Mr. Olympia if he ever comes in shape. I mean, we just saw he had that beautiful shape,
John, he says, this is Samir. He says, when my gun shoots straight, I'm dangerous. When it shoots straight, in other words, when he hits his peak.
Right. Yeah. And he did
of Samir's, the existence though was sodium, right? Wasn't that always his nemesis, Chris?
Well, aldosterone levels due to stress. He'll tell you
stress.
that, right? John, how many times has he told you, if I could control my aldosterone due to stress?
Yeah.
Listen, I spent 6 weeks with him in the Middle East in '92. So he was this was 10 years removed.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I got a pretty good eye. He looked unbelievable every single day. Like, and this was like weeks out from the Olympia, and he would talk about a bad eater. He would eat, he wasn't one of these guys with a big appetite. So he would eat, like a couple clean meals, but he'd eat something junky every day. And every day he'd look crazy. And even then he would say, it's my aldosterone levels. It's nerves that would get to him.
Yeah, he was so freaked out about it. I remember him saying he went to the library and he was studying all these books on what causes this, he was like, the harder he tried, the more stressed out he got, and then the more out of shape he would be. And he was killing.
I think it was cortisol.
Cortisol. No, it was cortisol. I'm sorry. He would say cortisol. Cortisol levels is his favorite.
Well, you're right. The aldosterone level raised up from that, right? And that's what caused
right, but you could block aldosterone with like aldactone, but the problem is the cortisol makes you hold water, too.
Yeah, it was all stress. Yeah.
Yeah, I think cortisol in bodybuilding was the first person I heard out of his mouth was Samir, and that was due to stress because, I remember seeing the Golds in Venice. John, one day I was in Golds Venice and I couldn't see, it was like I was right out front and coming down the street with Hampton Drive was a guy in spandex and a tank top. And I thought, you see way back then, this is like late 80s, you'd see a million good physiques because people would spend the whole entire summer at Golds Venice.
Yeah. And
I saw this guy walking down and I thought, that's like the greatest physique I ever saw. And as it got closer and closer, it was Samir. And I think that might have been the first or second time we met. And he just looked like ready for stage then. And it was probably like 8 weeks out from the Olympia.
Yeah.
Round hard.
When I think of 80s bodybuilding and that, remember that people used to wear the big boat neck shirts with the cut sleeves and a little shorter on the. He perfectly hippified when he wore that shirt. That was what you wanted to look like, right? You can see the bottom of his abs. He had the arms. He had the big upper chest that was sticking out of the cutout neck. Yeah, and that's what everyone wanted to look like. So when you saw him walking down the beach like that, Chris, with that shirt on, you're like, holy mackerel, that's bodybuilding. That's your like almost like stereotypical vision in your head of bodybuilding.
Yeah. I think when he won the Olympia in '83, he went out there early. And I think a lot of it had to do with he didn't want to be stressed out. He didn't want to be stressed out with the travel. So I think he went out there like 6 weeks. He trained at the gym with Erwin Noller, who was a good German bodybuilder. And they trained together. And he just got into that routine. And then he was almost like a citizen there. And then he just went over to the Olympia. He was already like
Erwin Noller, Chris. Only John Hansen could have come up with that name, right?
Of course.
Chris probably remembers that guy, Erwin Noller.
No,
he's in the universe every year.
Even Chris doesn't know who it is. John with the history. I was thinking, the lottery ticket here is there are $1 billion they're giving away for Powerball, Chris. I'm like, if I win the Powerball, my wife will probably divorce me, and I'll take half that $500 million, and I'm going to open the Bodybuilding Hall of Fame, and John Hansen and I we're gonna run.
Right.
Put the apartment above. Put John's like luxury apartment above it.
Yeah, I'll stay there.
And we'll just hang out there all day. I'll have to bring Valentino down here. We'll have to get the Romano down here and Palecchia, and we'll have like a little area like we could sit like a bunch of old men and instead of drinking beers, we'll be drinking like protein shakes and stuff like that all day long.
And then we should have a ceremony once a year, like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
right?
The Football Hall of Fame, and induct people.
Exactly, and the money will be no object because I have one 500 million, so we just. Kind of like a write-off type of thing,
A lot of people in first class.
It's an excuse for It's an excuse for us just to hang out and have fun for the rest of our lives. Anyway, all right, I want to talk about Jay Cutler because Jay Cutler turned 50 years old. Chris, I had Chris, manager Matt, and Dave Borlay. We did a nice video. If you guys want to watch that, it's remembering and talking about Jay Cutler, how everyone met him, and for his 50th birthday, which was this past Thursday. And he promised everyone that on his 50th birthday, he was going to take his shirt off on stage at the LA Fit Expo. I don't know if it was the LA Fit Expo. It was the Fit Expo. And he was going to reveal, how he looked. And he did. So let me pull that quick little clip up and get you guys. And I'll tell you, I was looking at his physique in this, and the only thing I was jealous of really was his hair. He's still got his full head of hair. How this guy does it, I don't know. Unbelievable. What do you think he weighs here, Chris?
233.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now, what I didn't understand, let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit. Hold on. What I didn't understand is why is Regan Grimes up there with him? I know Regan has a huge following, so it's going to get more people to watch it, but Jay has a huge following too. I felt like it kind of took away from what Jay did, like to have Regan up there, because Regan is actively competing now. So
Yeah.
of course Regan is going to be a little bigger than Jay. I mean, I don't know. I think Jay should have been up there by himself, you know.
Regan's only bigger because of the mint julep, as Samir would say.
The mint julep. Jay should have had posing trunks up there, and he should have taken the pants off too, the shorts off.
Yeah, for sure. With those legs.
He's got those great legs, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks good. I got to tell you, for 50 years old, he looks pretty damn good, you know?
Looks really healthy.
Yeah, he does. Well, Jay takes care of himself. He probably still gets a massage once a week, you know, and does all his therapies, and, you know.
They should have let him do his routine by himself and then had Regan join him.
I don't understand why they did that, and I really felt like it took away from Jay, and it diminished what he did.
Ask Manager Matt.
If Manager Matt was there, there would be no way Regan would have been up there.
No, he was there. He was there.
Oh, he was? I don't know why he was up there with him. Like John said, he should have let Cutler go out first. Then if he wanted to come out and hit a couple shots, because I knew Regan wanted to get the footage because he wanted to stand next to Jay so he can, you know, for nostalgic purposes. But this was, you know, Jay's unveiling.
Yeah. But oh god, he didn't want to stand next. It's like.
Well, he's got 1.8 million followers on Instagram. He's got to give them, you know, he's got to give them content.
That's what Instagram is. It's the new heroin for people. Yeah. Reagan had to like crash the posings and put it up on his Instagram.
It would have been cool to see Jay go out in like posing trunks and do one of his Mr. Olympia routines to the music, you know?
Yes.
He's been getting ready for this for a long time, right? Like 6 months he's been preparing.
Yeah. Now, is he going to be making an appearance at the Masters Olympia?
Yeah, he's there. He's the headliner.
Maybe he'll do it there. Maybe they'll get him to do a little posing exhibition. I said I was talking to Lee Priest about this. You know, Lee would love to do that too. They should get these like guys that still look good and pay them. Give them good money to do some just guest posings. We just want to see them. We don't need them to compete.
Right.
I want to see Jay up there. I want to see Lee Priest, you know, do a guest posing, you know, with Superman routine. I want to see Kai Green do Billie Jean, you know, you know, Michael Jackson. I'd pay to see Phil Heath too. Why not?
Phil Heath was there last night too, I think, right? Didn't he hit a leg shot?
Well, Phil lives in Florida here now, so yeah, he's definitely probably there. So he looks huge still too, right?
No, I mean he was at Jay's show, I think.
Oh, he was at Jay's show. Oh, I didn't know.
You're in the wrong state, Dave.
Well, you know, Phil
lives in Florida, but this show was in California.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know what he was.
Does Phil live in Florida? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he moved here. Yeah.
What part of Florida?
I think he's over in that Boca area, Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, okay, East Coast.
You know, people are moving here because they realize there's very few places where you say, you know, where it's safe to be a bodybuilder anymore. To be honest with you, Vegas, Florida, Texas. I mean, California. Forget it. If I was a bodybuilder, I'd never want to live in California.
Yeah.
You know, and that used to be the place to go. You know.
Yeah, that used to be the Mecca.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing we got out here is hurricanes.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just the politics of the state, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, I guess Oregon would be all right because everything's legal there. There's no drugs that are illegal there, so you can pretty much do whatever you want there. But who wants to live in Oregon? You know, the rains will be
how's that working out? Google Portland, and you'll see how that's working out for them.
Oh, really?
It's a catastrophe.
What's going on there?
It's just city's in chaos. Just Google it. Just Google. Just if you think homelessness is bad in Venice.
Oh, it's really. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Well, plus we'll have DeSantis here because it looks like he's not going to beat Trump, so he's still going to be our governor.
I selfishly don't want to see him get elected president. Just so we can keep.
I don't think he has a chance.
we need him. We need him over here, but I don't think he ever really serious. I think he's looking 4 years from now, but I think he just wanted to throw his name in the ring, so to speak, so that people know that he's interested in becoming president. Because I don't even see him campaigning, really. Do you?
No, he doesn't seem like he's doing. I think he fired all of his staff or most.
Oh, really?
Staff, so I think.
Well, Patrick Bet-David, who I've interviewed before and who has probably one of the top YouTube channels now out there, for interviewing people. He said that he's never seen a more botched, terrible, presidential campaign in his life. He said he said they should DeSantis should fire all his people who work for him.
I think he did.
And it's funny that he did. He said he should be, DeSantis should be on all the podcasts. That's how RFK Jr. is getting his name known.
That's the new media, right?
Yeah. I'd much rather go on Rogan than on the one of these news channels like CNN or something like that. I mean,
because you could talk for 3 hours and they're not gonna edit anything, and they're not going to be commercials, so you can. It's totally open. You can really express
the views. You get 15 million views on Rogan. You're gonna get 500,000 people watching you on the regular news channels.
Right.
Or as they call them, what do they call them? The legacy channels.
Yeah, nobody watches that anymore.
I like that name, legacy news channel. Who would have thought? But RFK Jr. made a really interesting point. About the news. He said when the news used to be on in the 70s and 80s, you watch Walter Cronkite and all those guys. You knew that they were telling you the truth.
Yes,
because the news back then lost money because it cost a lot of money to send all these news reporters to all these countries and all these places where things were going on. They had to fly them out there, put them in hotels, feed them. I mean, it was a fortune. It was a write. They couldn't make money with it. But the network had to have it, and they made money from the other shows that they would put on, and that's how they underwrote it. Nowadays, the news they sell out. They got all the drug companies financing all that. So they only say what they want to say. No one trusts the news, so no one watches the news because they know it's BS. So they watch Rogan, to get their news, or they watch Patrick Bet-David or Tucker Carlson or whoever people like, whatever your affiliation is.
Yeah.
And that's the way you get trusted news. That's why we're we've been the truth in bodybuilding for, since 2009. And people who want to hear the truth, they come to our channel and they hear it, and sometimes you don't want to hear the truth because as we say, the truth hurts, right, Chris?
Yep.
Dave, did you read RFK's book about the real Anthony Fauci?
I did not, but I watched enough podcasts hearing RFK Jr. talking about what was in the book.
Yeah.
To convince me that that we live in a real fucked up world. Did you read that book?
I just started it. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, you have to let me know how it is.
It's a real big book and it's really detailed, so I think it's going to take a while to get through.
Are there any pictures, John? I only like books because I can't bodybuilding.
No pictures. He was saying, Chris, I heard on an interview, he was saying bookstores wouldn't even sell it. I got it through Amazon.
Oh, yeah. He's suing YouTube, He's suing YouTube because they're taking down interviews with him. Like when he was on the Rogan podcast, they took down some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because they don't, and here's the thing, they're trying to foo him and make it seem like he's crazy. And, if I'm YouTube, which is a privately owned company, by the way, I don't want to take anything down, right? Because the more people watch my content on, as the owner of YouTube, the more I could charge for advertising, right? That's how they make money on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the great thing about YouTube is they share the wealth with people like us who are content creators.
Privately owned company. What does that mean?
It means one person owns the company,
If YouTube is owned by Google.
They say it's privately owned. So is Google a privately owned company? I don't know.
You can buy that stock today.
So why are they saying that that YouTube is privately owned?
That's what I'm trying to. What's privately owned? You
I don't
mean
know.
you mean it's not like owned by like the state of Florida or the state of Massachusetts?
Well, I mean,
Owned by
Elon Musk is the majority owner of Twitter, right? I mean,
100% owner. That is a privately owned company. It's owned by one individual, but YouTube is not a privately owned company.
I don't know. Yeah, then I don't know. That was the argument they were saying.
I mean, I guess that's why. How do you define?
But the point is, you can't. If there's someone telling YouTube to take down certain videos, because why would YouTube want to take anything down? That's my whole idea. YouTube makes money the more content they have up there. Why would they care what anyone says? Like, the newspaper was always freedom of speech, right? You can write whatever you want. You might not like the guy who wrote the column, but we have freedom of speech.
There's levels of freedom. You can never write what you want to say 100% usually.
Why not though?
Because
don't listen.
It's for the same reason on
this
this show. You cannot say whatever you want to say.
Well, not in today's culture because they'll cancel you. But
it's always been that way.
No, it hasn't always been that way. I mean,
you've always been able to say anything you want to say. Always, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind what the repercussions are of what you say, I mean, some people might not like what you say, and then
you can say it, but people don't say it because there are repercussions. In other words, people edit what they say. People do edit what they say. They think one thing, but they think it through, and they say, "Let me parse it out of my mouth."
Right, right. But you remember back when Jerry Springer used to have these crazy neo-Nazis on his show all the time?
Well, he was,
and they would be like.
That's why he became who he became. In other words, that's
freedom of speech.
But he was.
Morton Downey Jr. used to have those nutcases on too, and you know what? Everyone thought they were crazy, but you know what? They can say what they want. It's a free country, and we don't have that anymore. Especially on social media, if you say certain things that they don't like, or that they quote fact check or whatever, they think. I mean, they remove you. Facebook and that's not freedom of speech.
Yeah, that's not that new.
That's not freedom of speech. So we don't live in a freedom.
I'm just saying it's not new, but I don't agree. Well, I don't agree with it.
I think that's why Kennedy is. That's why Kennedy is suing YouTube because he's saying they're not allowing me to give my viewpoints and they're removing my content, and that's not fair.
Yeah. Well, he's 100% right.
Yeah.
I know what Chris is saying because I know even the news shows and stuff. Like I remember that 60 Minutes thing when they had that guy. They made a movie about it, The Insider, where they were going to reveal the truth about the tobacco industry.
Yep.
The big wigs, came down through the people and said, no, we can't do that. You got to edit that. And they were going to edit the interview, and they weren't going to allow it. So it came from the top, from the investors, and then it came all the way down to the producers, and then they had to edit the show. So you're not allowed to say exactly what you want.
Right. And that's the society we live in. And I think that people are sick of this. And Kennedy is trying to tell the truth. Whether you believe him or you agree with him or not, it does not matter. He should have the ability to talk and have a conversation. And because once they restrict our freedom of speech, we might as well not be in this country anymore. We might as well be in a dictatorship at that point.
Well, I think that's why Rogan went to Spotify too, because now he's not on YouTube.
Right.
Now he's got his own thing on Spotify. And he can say whatever he wants. And
that's why he's the #1 podcaster.
Yeah.
#1. Not even close to anyone. No one's close to him.
Yeah, it's amazing. The views he gets is unbelievable.
But he'll talk about anything. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And he, Spotify gave him, like you said, John, a platform to be able to do that. And they gave him a lot of money too.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the reasons why he went over there was because he doesn't want to be edited, because that's what YouTube was starting to pull some of his stuff,
They pulled his pen. He put, because he still has a YouTube channel and he puts up some of the clips.
Yeah, he puts the clips, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they pulled his RFK interview, or part of it at least, that they were talking about certain things that they claim YouTube said, but it's not YouTube. I'm telling you, YouTube doesn't want to remove anything. They're getting pressure from up above.
Someone else, the investors.
And that you know what? I don't agree with everything that everyone says, but I completely support their ability to say it,
Yeah, absolutely.
When Bob and I get into arguments, I might like what Bob says, and Bob might not like what I say, but he absolutely has the right to say whatever he wants,
Yeah.
So and I can say whatever I want. And that's what makes this country so amazing, you know? And so we don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
That free speech thing going on. How we got into free speech, I don't know, but
because Dave is the unofficial campaign manager from his town for RFK. He doesn't know it.
I'm going to get him on the show. I will interview him. I promise you. I put it out there, putting it out to the universe, Chris. I will interview RFK. I only want to ask him about working out. I don't even want to ask him about his politics. You know what he does? He goes to the gym and he does like a. If Menser was around, Menser would be training him at Gold's Venice, because he does a 30-minute workout, high intensity, drop sets, supersets, but he lifts heavy weight, and then he goes for a hike every day for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And that's like his routine, like 7 days a week, and he meditates. He's big into meditation too, because he had a substance abuse problem for like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And after his dad was assassinated, he fell into a deep depression. I mean, he was 14 years old, and then he got involved with drugs and the wrong people. And he's been sober for 40 years. He said, but he never thought he would be able to. But he really, if you listen to his interviews, he talks about how he got over that, and it was a big leap, a big spiritual leap he had.
Why is his voice like that? Did he ever say?
He had an injury, and it injured the nerve that innervates his vocal cords. And he actually had a surgery that made it. He said it used to be a lot worse. They improved it a lot, but that's the reason. He said he can't even listen to his own interviews. He's like, I don't know how you guys do it. He goes, I feel like I'm torturing people, making you listen to me.
Well, all the more, Dave, all the more, credence to what he has to say, because a lot of times people, if you have a speech, it's not an impediment, but if, there's some standoffishness in terms for a lot of people with his voice, and people are able to get past that and hear what he's having to say rather than the cadence or the way it comes out.
He back to bodybuilding. He will be good for bodybuilding, and I'll tell you why. Because he takes hormone. He even said it. He's on testosterone replacement. He's not going to be the guy that's going to ban steroids or ban new treatments and stuff like that. He's going to be a guy that, if the research is there, he will make them available to people, and that's what we want. Biden is the one who was behind the whole controlled steroid act back in 1990. He pushed that whole thing through.
Right.
That's not the guy you want as a bodybuilder. We want the guy who's going to be like, hormone replacement for everyone, because there's science behind it, and he's not going to be afraid. You don't have to walk around like you're a criminal, worrying about whether the government wants to arrest you because you have testosterone in your kitchen cabinet, And Kennedy is, he's about what's the science out there. And you know what? They're going to also clean up, which is really near and dear to my heart. I was listening to him on a podcast with this holistic doctor who he happens to be really good friends with. I can't remember the guy's name. I should have written it down. But they want to change the whole food bullshit pyramid, and they want to fix what they're recommending, because they know that public human interest and these farmers, they're all trying to push carbs on everyone, right? Sugary carbs. I mean, that's the American diet, right? And they know that that's what's causing all the obesity epidemic in this country, and all the need for medications. We're the most over-medicated country in the entire world. You take more medicine in this country by like 20 times any other. Europeans don't take as much, and they have access to anything. They don't even need prescriptions over there for a lot of stuff. But no one overuses medications like we do here. They say something like, I think, I don't want to quote the statistic. It was like 85% of Americans are on at least one prescription medication. I mean, that's crazy. 85%.
The news shows all push drugs. They're all sponsored by drug companies, all pharmacies.
He said he will ban that. He will not allow drug companies to advertise on television. He said, there's only 2 countries in the entire world that allow that, and we're one of them. He's like, it's against that, and that's why these news agencies are beholden to these advertisers, because these drug companies are putting major money. major money towards the networks.
Right.
So of course they're gonna adhere to. They're not gonna criticize vaccines if the company that's paying your payroll is a vaccine company.
Right.
He's like, he says you can't have that. Of course you're not going to get the real news out of anyone, or you're not going to get the real data, because these companies they won't get paid otherwise. So I love it. I love the fact that
I had a conversation with a friend of mine over the weekend at the Tampa Pro, and we were talking about the popularity of bodybuilding. And I was thinking back to the 1980s when, Ben Weider was trying to get bodybuilding in the Olympics, and bodybuilding was on TV all the time. And Joe Weider was really concerned with the image of bodybuilding in the general public. Like, he wanted everybody to be a bodybuilder, And I said, what ruined that was the steroids, because when they found out about steroids at that 88 Olympic Games, when Ben Johnson got caught, steroids were now known by everybody in the general public. And then that ruined the image of bodybuilding. And now I think it's just more like a niche sport. They've developed all these other organizations or these other classes, so they don't have to worry about getting out there. And my friend made the point. He said, well, look at what's happening with the transgenders and everything, how we have to accept everybody. We have to accept men turning into women. So why can't we accept the fact? And then plus the HRT companies are so big. So why can't we accept the fact that bodybuilders want to take steroids to look like they want to do? We have to accept them as we accept, the transgenders.
It's a very good argument.
Yeah.
Very good argument.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it will, the image will change as time goes on, because everything's changing so much.
Yeah. And I got to say, you know what? I am being discriminated against because I want to take hormones. And you know what? Bodybuilding needs to be added to that list of the LBGTB, blah, 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 blah. Well, that big long letter list.
Because we want to take hormones.
We need to add BB to that list, right?
Right.
If we attached ourselves to that list, no one would discriminate against our use of anabolics, right?
Right. Otherwise, you get canceled.
Unbelievable. So what's the next show coming up? Don't we have another pro show in Reno or something like that?
I thought Texas was.
There's a classic show, I think, in Mississippi next week.
Look at the schedule.
Classic Pro.
We're going to go over the classic, by the way, from Tampa, because you helped the winner, Chris.
Yeah, Matt Grego.
Grego.
Yeah, he was the board shorts guy last year.
Now, I was going to ask you that. I thought he was a men's physique competitor. That is correct then?
Yeah, he was. He used to be men's physique, and
so talk to me about that.
No, he was men's physique, and he I've been working with him, I don't know, less than a year, and he said, I want to do classic physique, and he had a great showing at New York. He had a great showing. I think he was like 6th or 7th, and I thought he could have been a lot higher. But there was some really, like the guys 1st and 2nd, they were extremely muscular.
Right.
And then I think he went to Atlanta, and it looked like after prejudging, he was going to win, and he ended up in 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was 2nd in Chicago and 1st here. So he's, moved right up, and 1st year out as a classic pro, he's going to the Olympia. It's really impressive.
Wow. That's awesome.
How he brought his legs up that fast. Unbelievable.
Everything.
He must have had legs before that.
He's just, he's brought everything up. He's brought his chest up, his shoulder, his back, you name it. He's made a lot of improvements in 1 year.
Mm. How do you see him doing at the Olympia?
I think at the Olympia, John, what do you think? Do you have a good eye?
He could be up there. I mean, he's got a really good structure. He was very polished. He stood out in this lineup right away, and there was some good guys in there. I mean, he doesn't have a big name yet, but I think, he's got the height. He's tall too. He's got a good look about him. So yeah, he could be up there.
Yeah, that's exactly, I asked you that, John, and word for word, I would have said, I told him the other day, I said, you can be up there at the Olympia. I don't know what that means. I told him, there's potential for Steve usually calls because they get so many guys there's so many guys in the show. He calls like a giant first call of sometimes 12. Yeah. I said, you could be up there, in the first call out, I think, because I'm just measuring it with just how fast he keeps improving. And I know by like the Olympia time, he can add a little bit of muscle, and on that structure, it can look like something.
I really like that guy in second place too.
Very, very good. I think
Carlos Domar. Yeah, I mean, phenomenal. Really impressive.
Very impressive.
Very thick.
It was close.
It was close, and wasn't close on the scores. Matt got all firsts, but like I said, I never buy that all firsts. I mean, just because you got all firsts, obviously Labrada got all first, and it was like, okay, I'm the judge first. But some show, you go to and you have the judge, and there's 5 of you, and you do get all first place votes, but you struggle with, who's going to be first out of these 2. It's funny because when Matt was second at his last show, I think it was like straight first for the winner, and I said, I'm not buying that, so I'm not buying either one. You know what I mean? Of like straight first meaning like domination, because I think both of those shows were close, and in fact, actually they were, because I think Matt had told me he asked somebody in Chicago, a judge, and he said, coin toss. In other words, the judge who he asked him did not have Matt first, had him second, but he said, coin toss, you could have won.
Yeah.
And, you get into the, it comes down to like preferences, and sometimes it comes down to this too. I think you don't always have the same judging panel, but if you might get 2 judges from multiple shows and they say, oh, this is the best I've seen Hansen, you know what I mean? Or this is the best I've seen Matt Grego. And, you're getting like these, this odd, not advantage, but you're getting, you're swaying a judge not only by what he's looking at against the lineup right now, but wow, this is his best, and it means something.
Yeah, they called the 2 of them up several times, so you could tell it was close.
Did you think it was close, John?
Yeah, I would have given it to Matt, just because, like I said, he had that more finished look. He was a little harder. He was tan. I mean, the color makes a difference, in the overall presentation. He was just more professional. The other guy looked a little more raw. He looked thick, massive, but a little more raw, where Matt was a little more finished. So I would have went with Matt.
Look, it was Tim Gardner has turned this Tampa Pro into a really, really, great destination.
I do want to say, Dave, that in a lot of Matt Grego's shows, I was disappointed when he was in the board shorts that they didn't give him more points for those quads, because they do judge them, as you know.
Judge the whole physique. Yeah, right. Yeah. Milos sent me a text message. He's still arguing with Bob over the whole fact that
Milos will argue his placing from the Swedish Grand Prix.
No, but I said, Milos, why are you arguing with him? I said, why are you still arguing with him? He will never admit that he was wrong. He goes, I know, but I can't let him. I can't stop. He goes, Dave, you and I know that they should judge the legs, but they don't. I said, I know. I'm not arguing with. I stopped after I realized I was arguing with a rock, basically.
Milos will get the legendary award at some point.
Yes.
And you know what? Unlike Samir, who says I'm speechless, Milos is going to come up with. Milos is going to have a list of compliments about bodybuilding, and then. Yeah. And just when everyone's ready to give him a standing ovation, he's going to have the grievances.
Well, I figured out how we can get, Chris, we can get you and Milos and me into the bodybuilding Hall of Fame that Hansen and I are going to build. We have to have a coach's wing to the whole thing, and that's how we'll get Milos and you and me. Milos will give a 6-hour acceptance speech when we put him in there, but. Yeah. No, I said, I told Milos, Milos, Milos loves to argue with people. He was laughing at, but I was saying it's not even worth it. He will never admit that he's wrong, even though I got the head judge to say that, they don't look at the legs, so he'll still try to talk his way out of it. I said, the perfect answer to that is, if they really judge the legs, how do these guys with prosthetic legs turn pro in men's physique?
Yeah.
How could you justify them beating another guy who has a real leg? I mean, you can't. So obviously they don't judge the legs. It's an upper body contest.
Dave, that's like the Supreme Court decision right there that statement you made. It's like trumps all others.
Yeah. There's no
Shuts
there's,
up-
no, there's
shuts-
nothing
it
else
shuts
to say
down
after
the
that.
argument completely.
Yeah. There's nothing else to talk about after that, right?
Yeah, they don't even look at calves in that division.
It's like in the Supreme Court when they go back and say, see decision 1, 2, 3, whatever, from whatever, 1965, 1985. See Dave's comments on prosthetic legs.
Yeah, I mean, if I had one arm and I competed in bodybuilding and I had this arm that was built to be like look like a bodybuilding arm, you know, with muscles and veins, and it matched my other arm, and I came out and they're not going to let me to win, right? Because it's a fake arm, you know. Pretty soon, people will just put suits on right over the whole body.
I think you're predicting the future here.
Yeah. People have like an artificial. Pretty soon, right when they get to the technology down pat, you won't even be able to tell if they have fake.
I know.
Forget injecting stuff into the girls' butts; they'll just put a whole fake butt on themselves, and you won't even know that. Yeah, they'll have these technologies where they can like mold it to be part of your body. You know, like you don't even know the difference anymore. We're gonna have a lot of. The future of bodybuilding is going to be chock full of interesting stuff once we can start, you know, changing people's appearance. You know, look, they have those fake. What is it called? Fake, where they have like, you know, fake. They could get like a talk show host, and they can make a fake version of him.
Deep
sounds
fake.
like him, looks like him.
Deep fakes.
Yeah.
Deep fake. Yeah, thank you, Chris. I mean, that's scary stuff. I mean, because you don't even know what you're watching anymore if you're really listening to a real person anymore.
Right. Did you see the 212 winner, Dave?
No, tell us about him.
Really thick, massive dude. Like real short, but incredibly muscular and thick.
Brazilian kid. Brazilian.
Yeah. He took a picture with Derek Saturday night, and he was about 4 inches shorter.
Was he really that short? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fabricio de Souza Moreira.
Yeah,
he looks really small.
Good lineup too, huh, John? The 212s was very good.
Really good lineup, yeah.
Like top 4 were like dynamite.
Yeah.
This guy reminds me of our good friend Alejandro. Rosetta Mortati's husband.
It's funny, it was a good show for him for the winner. I think he competed, I think Chicago. He competed in a couple shows in the States the last couple of years, and they're pretty good. But talk about bringing his absolute best. This like really smoked anything he's previously brought.
Yeah, it's good to see these guys that try so hard and they finally get it. You know, there's a lot of good speeches after they won.
Well, not only that, but he's rewarded.
Yeah, his arms and legs were amazing.
Yeah,
he's got a good back too. Look at those lats flaring out there. Look like Dorian's lats.
Yeah, it's got a great lot of thickness in the back double. Great hams from behind.
Yeah, and the guy who was second was good. I think he was from Egypt, maybe.
Yeah,
and he had really good shape. And a better structure, of course, because he was taller and just better overall symmetry, but not as hard as this guy.
Mohammed and Bobby. It's funny. There's a lot of new guys that I guess we don't even know who they are. The 212 class is definitely changing a lot. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fast. A lot of big, thick guys. This was an eye opener because I think all 4 of these guys. I mean, I don't know how they're going to do at the Olympia, but they'll be.
Here's my question.
All 4 are not going to be there, but all 4 physiques are capable to be on that stage.
Yeah.
Here's my question to you, though. Now that they changed, they tweaked the weight classes for the classic physique division. The shorter guys can weigh 7 pounds more now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you'll see guys come back from the 212 to classic? Guys like, Keon Pearson or Brianne Ansley?
No, I think those guys are too far advanced now. I think they put on too much size.
I don't know about that. 7 pounds is a lot of muscle on a shorter physique.
Breon is capable of if Breon's got a cap, which he does, meaning he struggles to make. I just think Breon looks phenomenal, and that if you take the packages that he brings with, if he's allowed even 3 more pounds of muscle, it's a different
7 pounds he's allowed more.
Well,
7 pounds.
if he even adds 3, because he has, out of all the guys in the 212, I think the most mature looking muscularity. I just think that getting down to that weight that he needs to get down to, it takes away from, I don't know if it's the legs or the lats, and then it affects his taper. The illusion of the taper is created with lats, width, and thigh sweep. And I know, like, at the last couple shows, you know, I thought, like, gosh, he's in dynamite condition. He's really, really sharp and with a lot of mature muscle, more so than the other guys. But his waist, I wouldn't say look wide, but like 6 weeks out, it looks more tapered.
You talking about Breon Ansley? Or you talking about Rough Diesel?
Breon.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Rough Diesel's got no. Rough Diesel has no. Rough Diesel has no flaws, so it doesn't matter with Rough Diesel. Rough Diesel.
Breon, I think it would make a difference.
Can't get a word together. Dave, every time, dude.
I think that when I did the announcement about the weight increases in the class, I felt that these guys like Breon and Keon might stay in 212 because it's less competitive. I hate to say it. I don't want to insult the class, but let's face it, Bumstead is pretty damn solid at the top of that class. Ramon Dino is pretty damn solid at the top of that class. Urs Kalasinski, because of their height and everything like that. I think those guys are going to do better in 212. What do you think? Because of their height, I'm talking about. There is a height disadvantage in Classic. I don't care what anyone says.
There is. Yeah. Well, there's a height
all
disadvantage.
All guys look better.
All guys look better. David, there's a height disadvantage in everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's typically the shorter guys in the 212. Yeah.
I think the shorter guys that were Classic guys will do better in 212 because they got the shape.
Yeah.
And if they can add more mass, and that division is wide open still.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see those guys dominate there rather than try to compete against these tall guys in Classic, you know.
Better shape, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for them. And I think we're going to see Classic turn into a tall man's division, don't you?
Although with Breon Ansley, I mean, I can see him going back to Classic, you know, because I think if he did 212 originally, I think before Classic even started, he wasn't successful at that.
No.
So I think he's got a better shape for Classic. He just always lost because he had to get down to that weight. So if he has that extra 7 pounds, it could make a big difference for him.
I think I'm on the FedEx commercial.
He also was competing during the years when Flex Lewis was winning the Olympia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the 212 is not that same 212. You don't have Jose Raymond and Eduardo Correa in there.
Right.
You got it's a different class now. So I think that, and he's got more muscle maturity now. He could dominate that class if he, you know.
Yeah.
He's got.
A lot of the guys in the 212 are kind of stocky and thick and massive.
Yeah.
But he's got the shape. So
yeah, he's got the structure. All right. Well, I want to thank you, John, for joining us today and helping us wrap up the Tampa Pro. If you want to see the full results, I know NPC News Online has everything there with all the pictures and everything like that. I want to thank them for letting me use the pictures and everything like that. And great job, Tim Gardner, man. This show is always a fun show. Congratulations to Hunter Labrada, qualifying for the Olympia again and bringing his best look of his career. I mean, you can't take that away from this guy. He brought it. He'll be in Texas in 2 weeks against Andrew Jack and Carlos Thomas Jr. And I'm excited to see that show.
Yeah, me too.
Chris, any final words?
I don't have any final words. Isn't this where someone says the truth hurts? And I think me and John always screw.
Well, I figured you and Samir are going to be you know, I gave Samir, they gave him the ability to say something. He was tongue-tied, and now, Chris, you don't have any final words. So I'll just say, as we always do every week, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Oh,
good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.